Elizabeth, welcome to the show.
Hello, I'm here.
You know, for those of you that don't know what Elizabeth and I have just been through, we've just been through 3 freaking attempts to record this thing. But because we are trained professionals, we're going to get through this with poise and dignity. So here's what I want to say. Number one, I am incredibly excited that you are on the show today because you are somebody that represents someone who took something that they're good at. In your case, it's hair. And you were able to turn that into an online business and something that you can basically do from anywhere. And it's what I love about the concept is the way you did it. It's so out of the box. You could have easily stayed and just, went on becoming a hair cutter, but you were like, no, I want to do something different. We're going to get into exactly what you did to do that. But I think that we're gonna start, in the spirit of finding out that Trump has COVID. I just felt. Did you know that?
I saw some memes
Okay.
on it.
All right, I don't know if you knew that. So I figured if we're going to start off with politics, that we should at least start off with religion. So we're going to go.
Oh, yeah. Why not?
You should cover religion and politics. So what I want to do is I want to rewind the clock, and I want to take you back to growing up in Las Vegas. And I recently learned that you were a Mormon. And my question, I have a Mormon question. It's kind of like, I just feel like I don't know one personally other than you and maybe one other person. But here's my question. Why are Mormons so freaking nice? Like where anytime I am somewhere in the neighborhood of Utah, I run into somebody who's a Mormon. I'm like, the nicest people ever. Is that like part of the grooming? Like what's going on there?
It's part of the grooming. They are nice. They are just really nice. Most of the people who actually work on my team are Mormon. I have very few who are not. At least they were raised Mormon. I mean, I live in Utah, so it's not a big surprise. Grew up Mormon, was married in the temple my first time, like the whole thing. Family values are just such a big part of what you're raised with. And so your whole life, you're taught to be Christ-like, to serve. Families and people are the most important thing. So yeah, they're typically very honest and very nice.
It's unbelievable at how nice they are. Okay. So we're not here to talk about Mormons. We're here to talk about you. And, we are all a product of our environment. And I found it very interesting. I always find it interesting when I'm working, when I'm doing prep work for an interview. It's always interesting to me about how someone was raised. And I learned that your dad was a yoga teacher, which I think has to be like the coolest dad thing ever. Let's pick it up here. As you went through those rebellious years as a kid, which we all did, right? How does a yoga teacher dad parent a rebellious child? Because I just feel like he'd be waving crystals at you, and like that's not going to work.
My dad is really cool, by the way. He's actually a big part of why my business is the way it is. My dad was always in my corner. I was an extremely troubled kid. I mean, I ran away. I got sent away with different families, high school dropout. I mean, I wasn't your Mormon child star. I was not like singing in the choir and getting straight A's. I was like smoking marijuana and hanging out with boys who were much older. So my dad, most of my life growing up, would take me hiking. And he would take me away from everything, right? He would take me into nature. He would talk a lot about God and our power. And it was a place I think he could parent me, was, he's very spiritual in that way. He would take us out. And I remember growing up, me and my sister he worked at the YMCA at night teaching yoga. And we would sit in the back of the room because someone had to watch us. And, all these women would do yoga and men. And I remember trying to do it as a little kid and sometimes hating it and sometimes liking it, but he taught me a lot through doing things like that. So I think it's funny because a lot of what I do now, I take people hiking and doing yoga and stuff at our retreats,
Yeah, you're essentially doing stuff that he taught you to do in sort of a different way. So, okay, around 12 years old, you decided that you wanted a box of color. And so you walk into Walmart, you play the 5-finger discount game, and you're like, I'm just going to steal this shit, right? You just took the damn thing and you colored your hair and you wind up getting suspended. But this weird thing happens, and you meet this guy named Brandon, and he sees your hair and he hands you this business card. In what ways did that moment shape your future?
Yeah. I think that I realized, I mean, maybe not at the time, but sitting in that chair, I say this in my keynotes, I felt heard, beautiful, seen, and loved. I felt so much more than just the way I looked on the outside. But it shaped my entire future. I was just so drawn to hairdressing and what people do in the salon, and I felt cool there. I felt like I fit in. It gave me something to look forward to, like, oh, maybe one day as an adult, I could be, something cool like that. But I think it was the first time I realized that how I felt on the outside affected how I feel on the inside. And that and in a good way, in a positive way. But I think that like made me feel more confident, that made me excited to show up differently, which sounds weird for a 12-year-old, but my hair really gave me a sense of self and confidence and a creative outlet. But I think more importantly, like for those of you, I mean, none of you guys know my story. You're not in the hair world, but I share this story about how.
I guarantee you that your listeners are going to listen, because I have a lot of people. People know you and I are connected. I had no idea. I told you this before. I had no idea why all these hair cutters follow me, and now I know. It's the Elizabeth Faye effect.
So funny.
I'm
well,
like,
they know you're my business coach.
They really like my hair. Like I have my hair on Instagram, but it was actually you.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, but I felt something in the salon, and that man ended up mentoring me in the salon, and I got my hair done the first time. It was so expensive. My dad got upset. I worked my ass off to work, earn some money and come back and get it done again. And he said, put your money away. And he struck a deal with my dad that if I would get better grades on my report card every time I came in to get my hair done, that he would do it complimentary. And he did that for me until I was 16 years old.
Whoa. Mormon?
Yeah. Changed my life.
Was he a Mormon?
He was raised a Mormon, not an active Mormon. That's funny.
Doesn't matter. I'm telling you, they're the nicest people in the world. The nicest people. So I want to talk to you a little bit about getting scrappy. Yeah. You decided to leave Nevada, start a new business in Utah, but you still had a client back in Nevada. So you used to drive back to Nevada to cut his hair. And one time he gave you a gift that impacted you deeply. Could you tell us what that gift was and in what ways that impacted you? In other words, what did that gift mean to you, and what did it ultimately mean to you?
Yeah. So, fast forward a few years, I'm high school dropout. I went through beauty school. I got a job in Vegas working, blah, 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 which by this same group of people who mentored me, which is pretty cool. And later I ended up, leaving that company, and I was super young, maybe 19 years old. And so I started hair when I was like 2 years old. And so I opened up this like really horribly ugly spot in Utah. And when I would drive down to do this guy's hair, he worked for a famous guy, and he had all these chandeliers up on the ceiling of this house he lived in. And I would do a house call, and I would cut his hair, and I just looked up at these chandeliers. And I don't know why, for me, like, when you see that piece that means something to you, or like a car or an outfit or something, and it symbolizes who you want to be or how you want to show up in the world. Like, for some reason, that chandelier, I felt like that about it. And I would just tell him, I'm like, I got to have one of those. Like, what do we got to do to make this happen? Yeah. So he ended up gifting me one of these. Actually, I was 19 years old. He dropped off this huge chandelier to me in like this huge box, and it was hanging, and I had nowhere to put the damn thing. Like, my salon ceiling was like 9 feet tall. I lived like on my friend's mom's couch. So I ended up carrying that chandelier with me for a really long time. But that chandelier represented who I would be, like the kind of house I would live in, and the kids that would be happy underneath, and like the relaxing nights by the fire with my dream man at night. And of course, a vaulted ceiling, or the salon it would be in, right? And that salon, people would feel what I felt, listen, heard, beautiful, seen, and loved. And people would come in and it'd be popping and it would be amazing. And it represented a life of who I would be if I could have that life, you know?
Yeah. So ultimately, did you put a big chandelier in your haircutting place?
Yeah. So years later, yes.
Did I know the end of that story?
Yeah.
So you are really, really extremely effective on social media. And as your business grew, you saw that social media, particularly Instagram, could be leveraged for you and really help you grow your business. You were sort of an influencer before they were called influencers, right? How do you think that you thought about Instagram differently than all the other? Do you prefer a haircut or hairdresser, stylist? What's the word these days?
Hairstylist is pretty
Hairstyle.
common.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you think about Instagram? Let's say differently than other hairstylists do.
Yeah. I mean, obviously we're all awake to the power of social media at this point. But I think when I first, got on, I was a MySpace kid, then I was on Facebook. So like social media for some reason is just something I was always drawn to. But I just knew, like, if someone could see my work as this portfolio, like obviously I could amplify that type of human in my life. And to me, that felt like magic. That felt like this portal of access to all of these people that I could get from my couch or my salon. And I think that, especially nowadays, we're aware of the power of social media, but we also like maybe have a hate-love relationship with it. It's a spiral of comparison or self-loathing or whatever that might be. But I think if you stick true to like that feeling of like, this is magic, this is opportunity, this is a portal to the people who can give me the things that I'm wanting because I can give them what they're wanting, it can stay fun. Whatever your industry is, but hair, it's imagery. It's like so perfect.
Yeah, you're really, really good at it too. You really are. You decided that you were going to step into, or I guess sort of step out of being a stylist full time and add another piece to your portfolio. So you decided to, sort of step into the world of education. And, now you're traveling around the world when COVID isn't happening. And you decided to get into the world of education. Why did you decide that education was your path?
Yeah, I think that's great. Mentors changed my life. I mean, from day one, you guys learned about that, how someone mentored me. The first salon I worked at was a famous salon. Mentorship and education was everything. And from there, I mean, I've just been so submerged in it since I said I was 2 years old when I started.
Got it.
But got it. And then I went to be a beauty school teacher part-time. And so I learned a lot about facilitation, writing curriculums, delivering learning types, workshops, all that sort of stuff. That was what I did for like $2 an hour for a ton of years. And, I think all the best salons out there, they're very education focused. So it's always been 50% of my career. And it wasn't until about 3 years ago that it became 100% of my career. It was a slow, transition, about 50% to then it was like 70%. Then I was finally like going crazy and was like, I can't do everything. And that's when I really leaned into education.
Okay, so now you've got the world of education going, and inside of that world, what did you start with? What was the product that you originally started with?
Oh, originally,
Yeah.
like before Hair Love, I originally started with workshops. I did for 4 years, traveling workshops.
Okay, and the workshops, you decided to do the workshops, and they were sort of targeted at the newer hairstylists. Is that right?
Not necessarily, just anyone who wanted to be good at color. We had a whole color curriculum and like a little bit of business in there.
Okay, and then you moved from that into your business in a box. Yeah.
Yes, after a few failed attempts, we eventually got the workshop in a box, which is our like signature big program,
Yep.
up off the ground. Yep.
All right. And then you stepped into sort of, which is how we met, you sort of stepped into the world of doing retreats, which I
Yes.
find really interesting because you're doing effectively what I'm doing for, we'll call it quote unquote entrepreneurs, but you're doing it specific to hairstylists. Now, I'll tell you something. Once I sort of started doing this work hard, play hard thing, I've gotten a lot of people that have reached out to me and want to do some version of something like this. I want to do a golf trip, with businessmen. I want to, like what you're doing. Why do you think that retreats in the way that you do them, and maybe you can describe your retreats, are as effective as they are for people who attend them?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I mean, live education's magical and experience education is life-changing. Growing up with my dad, he would take me on these hikes, these experiences, these rendezvous. He was a Boy Scout leader. So I would go to these off-grid locations. I've always had a love for travel. So, I mean, a little bit of it was selfish. I just wanted to be able to travel. And I was like, what if I could combine the magic of education, the magic of my passion for travel, and that thing that happens when you go somewhere outside of your world? I mean, you would learn better. It just would consume everything differently. And for those of you who travel, I mean, Rob and I share that passion. You come back a different human just from vacation somewhere like that. Imagine if it was with high level people. Imagine if it was with high level education. I mean, just for those of you who know, I'm going to be going to Rob's, masterminds. I was drawn to that because I knew the magic of it, and I wanted to go to one that I didn't have to plan, so I could just enjoy, which
Me too.
is neat. Yeah, you need to find some ones to go to.
I do.
But it's important. Like I know the magic of that, so that's why I was like, well, I need to be getting it if I'm giving it. We call it escape to learn. That's our concept of learning, and we take people out of their life. I pick you up and I put you somewhere different, whether it's Bali or Morocco or Zion National Park or in a greenhouse or in a cool warehouse. I mean, I will take you somewhere else, and it's like adult Disneyland for your mind. I just think it's so cool. If you love hosting events, it's a really cool thing to do. If you don't like hosting parties, you will hate doing it, but you would love attending.
Yeah, I mean, some people, for whatever it's worth, some people love to sit, in the back of a hotel room, and they want to be in a business suit and have a pad and a pencil. I'd rather stab myself in the eyeball.
I would
Like
as
that.
well.
I can't do it. Give me a glass of champagne and put me in Saint Tropez and let me hang out
Yes.
with cool people. I'm happy. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I want to move into sort of outside of the work you do, and I want to talk a bit about fulfillment, because I think fulfillment is a bit of an art. But first, I want to ask you, what do you think people often get wrong about you?
About me?
Mm-hmm.
Oh. I think the most common thing I get told, which is kind of weird, is people are like shocked that I'm the same person in real life that I am online. Like people are like, wow, you're really just down to earth. Like that I'm just a normal girl with a dream and passion who is willing to like read a book and hire a coach and learn something. And that's it,
Yeah, that's actually one of the highest compliments that you can get in this over filtered Instagram world of people showing only the highlights.
Yeah.
Beautiful to get that compliment. What is one rule that you have for yourself that you'll never break?
Probably to serve authentically. Like I guess, and that's probably why people say that compliment, but like to just show up in my journey how I am, even when it's hard. Like I've had some health issues that I hid for 6 months and it just like felt unaligned. And it was because I went against that promise of like, I told my people, I'm going to coach you, I'm going to guide you, I'm going to lead you, I'm going to connect you. And when I'm not showing up on what's really going on, I can feel it with my audience. I feel disconnected.
I love that. I was listening to a podcast yesterday by Ed Milet, and he had one of the NBA players, something Nash, that was on the show, and he had this analogy. I don't have it fully baked yet, but it was something like, in the morning you take your hands and you look at them, and you say thank you. You see all the calluses, and you're like, thank you for all of the things that I've been able to overcome that you got me through. And when you're working, take a look at those hands again and say to yourself, service.
Love that.
And now it's time to serve. And it's a little weird hack, but when like you're working, like, right now doing podcasts, and so I have a bunch of podcasts I'm doing today, I look down and I'm like, this is about service. This is about service, right? And then he takes a little further and he says, in the morning when you wake up and, you look in the mirror, imagine the mirror fog, and that fog is all your self-doubt and your imposter syndrome. And just take your hand and go like this over the mirror and clear away all the self-doubt. And it's like an anchoring technique that I love. And that triggered for me when you said that.
I love that.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, that's cool.
What new behavior or habit do you have in your life that you believe now has most improved your life? Like, since I started doing this, it's a game changer. It's different for me now.
Ooh, I would say I'm going to give you one that I was doing, and then I'll give you my new one.
Right.
I think the thing that I've done for a long time that has led to a lot of my success is I didn't worry about the how. Like, when I knew I felt called to do something, I just started and figured it out as I was going.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the how is none of my business, right? Someone told me that. It's probably a famous person I read somewhere. I don't know. And then the thing that I've adopted in 2020 is surrendering. I noticed that, like, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs fall into this. I almost adopted the struggle in my life as I have this struggle, like rags to riches story, but that doesn't have to be my story my whole life. Right. And so I recognized that I was adopting that cycle into everything and making things harder. And this year has taught me to surrender, and I've done a lot of work through different, types of things and spirituality, but, I think surrender, show me how easy it is my new thing I'm trying to retrain myself to be. So okay, I want to make $1 million doing this. Show me how easy it is. Show me how.
Really, really interesting. I love that. It's so easy for us to link up that it has to be hard in order for it to work, as opposed to the art of allowing and saying, this is the intention, this is what I'm putting out into the universe, and I trust that a power that is way higher than me, that knows how to make that freaking tree grow without me doing a damn thing, or that planet spinning in, out there in orbit without me doing a damn thing, and it's happening, and I'm going to sleep at night, and some intelligence is making my heart beat without me doing a damn thing, can figure out how to get me my $1 million. And I'm just going to trust.
Yeah, no shit. Of course it can. Of course, duh. I did shrooms recently, and the thing of control kept coming up, and that's that surrender. When we try to control our outcomes, we're not surrendering to what could be, right? We're trying to hold on to things, and if your hands are closed, no more can come in. And so I think I love that. If all of these things are happening, who am I to think that I actually had any control like that? This year has taught us that, surrender and see what happens, and things can be easy. And what happens is and I'm saying this because I know other people do this, when you have proven to yourself that struggle equals success, right? Well, I got this first $1 million or this first business because I struggled. We think it's this proven strategy that we have to duplicate when it just wasn't. And so that was the thing that as soon as I realize that pattern doesn't have to repeat to equal success. Let's try a new pattern. It's scary. It is. It's scary to let go. It's that fear of well, what if it all crumbles? What if I don't struggle, this won't happen? But I love how you said that. If all of these things are happening, you were just, no, just let it happen.
It's almost egotistical that that we're going to move that sun out there. We're not damn thing.
No. And I mean, if we have not had somewhat of an ego death this year, then you're not awake. But what a blessing. I'm so glad. I've gone through 1 million years of hard things alongside all of you. And some of you have gone through some shit I can't even imagine. And it's all good. It's all for our better,
there's lessons there, and it's all for, things are happening for you, not to you.
Yes.
Different question. If you could spend 1 month anywhere in the world, where would it be and why?
Ooh, I haven't gone as many places as I want to go, but I feel like Italy is somewhere I could spend a month.
You absolutely can. Spend a bunch of months.
You're a few years.
Are there any positions or opinions in the last few years, or it could be even further back if you want, it doesn't have to be in the last few years, that you have changed your mind substantially, where you shifted your position, where you used to think, you know, I used to think that, but I was wrong. Now I think this.
I think I used to think that I could get where I wanted to go alone. Like that I didn't need to like have a team, that I didn't need to let other people shine better than me. And I think that's huge. Like if you really want to scale your business, if you want to be more, especially like you want to hit over 100K, you want to impact more than like, you know, a smaller amount of people, especially if you have a product or service online, you kind of have to, right? You don't get to get there alone. And I think like the more I run a team, the more I fall in love with like investing in them and letting them be better and like working with them and for them. And I think that's the other thing. I mean, Gary Vee, I heard him say this the other day, and this is so true. I think another thing I used to think is that people work for me. People don't work for me. I work for them. Like we're on the same team. We work alongside of each other. And I think that has really changed the way I look at my team and the way I feel about them and the way they feel about the mission. And
Unpack that a little bit more. I think I understand what you're talking about Gary Vee's quote, but what do you mean exactly? Like you work for them?
so
You mean like you both work
is
for the mission?
yeah, like we work alongside of each other, but like I think that I had this idea, like when you're an entrepreneur and you grow your company, all these people work for you and they work for your mission and they work for your vision, right? But when it really comes to fruition and you really have a big strong mission, you know, like Rob, you love to travel, but like your mission is to like change people's lives and have these entrepreneurs who are changing other people's lives have a fucking break, right? And learn how to do these things. So like that's really what you're working for. And I started like turning my focus away from myself and almost towards my team. Like, what can I do to pour into them? What can I do to educate them? What can I do to help them make more money? And that's just changed, I think, a lot of things in our business and the way I feel about people and like the loyalty we've seen through this year. You know, and even like I've had almost everyone on my team get different job offers from other people and they've been able to stay and I've been able to provide for them. So I just think like when you become a leader and when you get to hire your first assistant or your first team member or your first VA, like just think about like you work for the mission together, and especially when they're your employee, like your job is to show up for them too. It's not just the other way around.
Yeah, no, I love that.
I think that builds fulfillment, which is kind of what we were talking about, and it's fulfilled a lot of things in the workplace really well.
Yeah, and it's also not having this weird separation between I'm the boss and just do what I tell you to do, because you don't get production from that. You get resentment and somebody's secretly looking for another job when you're not looking. So I love that. Okay, we're gonna play an Elizabeth Faye speed rounds. Tell me the first thing that comes to your mind. What would your friends say is your superpower?
Oh Lord, I don't know.
What's your superpower?
Superpower. Holy shit. I don't know. I make things fun. There you go.
That's a superpower.
Okay.
What keeps you up at night?
Oh, all my freaking ideas. They're always there.
They don't stop.
They don't stop.
Do you collect anything, or have you collected anything?
No, I'm like a throw it away kind of person.
Me too. That's why we get along.
Yeah.
What if people never ask you, but you wish they did?
To hang out for free on their houseboat.
To hang out?
To like at Lake Powell. I want to be invited to Lake Powell on someone's bougie ass houseboat just to like come just for fun with my whole family. That's what I want to. No one asks me that, and it's rude every time.
That is really, I mean, I'd love to unpack that more, but I'm going to leave that there.
You're good.
What's the one thing that you personally want to get better at? And it could be anything. It could be a cooking class.
Ooh.
It could be, gardening.
Working out.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
What book have you reread the most amount of time?
Oh, You're a Badass at Making Money.
Yeah. Sincero, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Sincero, one of those. It's Italian. What is your guilty pleasure?
Ooh, like The Bachelor, like those horrible, like Married at First Sight, like anything about marriage, cheesy reality TV. Yeah.
Have you done 90 Day Fiance?
No, that's like the only one I haven't done.
Don't start. I did. I've watched everything.
Oh,
6 years of episodes.
yeah,
My wife
yeah.
did it for 6 months. What is one thing that you're afraid of right now?
Oh, burnout.
That's good. Got to listen to that voice inside you.
Mhm.
Um, Two more questions. First one is, if you had to do a TED Talk on nothing that you're known for, nothing that you speak about, and it could be on
Mm.
anything that you have a passion for, what would it be on?
Hmm. Nothing that I speak about, nothing that I'm known for. Um, like the inside of what really happens in some of our beauty industry things. Like kind of spilling some of the dirty deets about like the way salons are run, some of these product companies, like just shit I can't talk about, like some of it, like I think it's just backwards and weird and I think could be done better. And like,
Good.
anyway.
I'm going to give you a pass because it's interesting. It's still in the world that you're sort of in, but I'm going to give you a pass on that. That is interesting and it's salacious. I think I'd be the first one to listen to it.
Yeah.
Last question I have for you is, we'll switch things up. What one question would you like to ask me?
Ooh, that is good. Well, I'm lucky. I'm your client, so I get to pick your brain all the time.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think what is one question I would ask you if I didn't get you all the time. I would ask you, why do you think it's so important? Like something I think is really amazing about you, Rob, is like you literally like quit your legit career, right? As a chiropractor, like full
Good.
on, like making a lot of money, like it's a whole business. You did the whole thing. Um, like if you could say like almost like a message, like if I wouldn't have done that, like I would have felt like this on my deathbed, like how you speak about regret, like
Yep.
what would be your message to everyone when it comes to like living in alignment? Like why is that so important? Because there's sometimes I do shit I don't want to do and I think of you and I'm like, well, Rob quit like really good things to do something that fulfilled him more, because he would probably regret it if he didn't. So like what would be that message you would give to like maybe like a teenager or someone just starting out?
Well, they'd be different messages for different people at different times. So if you're somebody just starting out and you haven't stepped into the world of getting married, having a kid, starting a business, and getting your degree, that's one message. And that would be, make sure that you really freaking have a really good idea that this is something that you're passionate about, and also know that that passion may wane over time. And if it's the reverse and it's somebody who's been doing it for 20 years, like I was, 25 years, and they just have this thing inside them where they feel like it's time and they want to do something else, but there's a whole bunch of limited beliefs around, yeah, but I spent all this time getting my degree, and yeah, but I only work 20 hours a week, and yeah, but it's not that hard, and yeah, but I make a lot of money doing it, and yeah, like why am I starting from zero to do it all over again? You will hit a point in your life where the universe is no longer going to serve you in the way that it was serving you before, because you're not honoring that still small voice inside you that's saying this is no longer right. It's almost like being in a relationship with someone that you know is over, and you just force it and you stay together for the kids, or you stay together because you don't want to get divorced and you don't want the stigma or whatever it is, and you're dying a slow death because you haven't pulled the trigger. You have to learn to listen to that voice. And when you listen to that voice, you have to step into belief and faith and trust that it's going to work out, because that internal guidance system that you have is always trying to point you in the right direction if you just would listen to it.
Surrender. So good.
Well, Elizabeth, this has been exactly what I thought it was going to be. It's a good time. Fun is your superpower. Do you have any final words, suggestions, or an ask for people that are listening?
No, I just think this was so fun. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And I would love it if anyone enjoyed what they heard. Reach out to me. You can DM me, talk with me. Even if you don't do hair, we're all in the business of living our best lives and building fulfilling businesses. And so we have something in common there.
Awesome. So there you have it. So we will link everything up in the show notes. But if you're driving and you can't look at the show notes, it's Your Instagram handle is Hey Elizabeth Faye. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Hey Elizabeth Faye. That even rhymes. Elizabeth, thank you so much.
Thank you.